Welcome to a new episode of the Test Tribe virtual meetup. Let's hear from Prathamesh on how to choose right automation framework and tool.
Hi everyone, this is Vanshika from the Test Tribe. Firstly, welcome to the Test Tribe 14th virtual meetup. Today we have two speakers with us, Prathamesh, and then we'll have a session by Srinidhi. Before moving into what we do, a huge shout out to Browser Stack, our exclusive sponsor for all community events and premier sponsor for all conferences. Now, I would like to call our first speaker, Prathamesh. Prathamesh is currently Director, Head of Quality Engineering at Tenerity. He's passionate about people and technology, and he is responsible for product quality engineering, automation, and performance in his current role. So, definitely, I would like to invite him on the stage to share his experience of so many years with us, and and enlighten us with some knowledge. So, hi, Prathamesh.
Hey, hi Vanshika.
Hi, Prathamesh. You can take over now.
Hey, thanks Vanshika. Thanks for the intro. And good morning, folks, from whichever part of the world you are. And I can definitely sense there are a bunch of passionate people, over here in this morning with us. Just wanted to also take a moment and appreciate the Taste Stripe, the kind of initiative these guys have been taking, and I have been also following them, and the kind of a platform they are making available, to passionate, quality engineers like us to come on board and share our experience and interact. This is something really fantastic. So also kudos to the Taste Stripe team. So, guys, as you know, all of you also must have seen some of the agenda that was shared earlier, and we all know, right? We all are passionate people about when it comes to the testing and quality engineering, how things are shaping up onto the automation side. So today, I just wanted to share some of those things that basically I have been through from my purview, and also wanted to hear or maybe discuss some of our own experiences and the challenges that is something we encounter on a day-to-day basis. So I'll just go ahead and try to present my screen. Okay, so now today we are going to talk about how to choose right automation framework and tool. And again, this basically has a different sides to it. One can be a technical side to it, but I also wanted to put focus on what all the other challenges, factors, and things goes into it. Okay, but and right, for every decision you have to actually take into consideration all other aspect of it, in terms of short term and your long term vision and goals, and that is what exactly we are going to be discussing today in this particular session. So how we are going to move ahead in this particular session, that we just wanted to get on the same page. So we'll be just looking at what is the test automation framework. We'll be looking at the advantages of having a test automation framework in place. What has been our traditional challenges with it? Also, we will discuss briefly around the key points that we can consider while selecting a test automation framework, misconceptions about the test automation in general. um, Also, that's a very pretty important point, is that the questions that you should have answers for before actually finalizing your test automation tech stack. So when I say tech stack, it's all framework and tool, and the entire ecosystem. Various features that one can consider while selecting a tool, the decision matrix, that is something you can also take a help from, and we'll just discuss about some of the already popular options available there right now in the market as well. So this is how we are going to move along today. So now, what is a test automation framework? I know most of us might be having a fair idea of it, but just for the benefit of the audience, the test automation framework, when we talk about, it's basically a foundation. Okay, and that is basically is formed to provide an execution environment for our test automation scripts. So whenever I see about test automation framework, I always think about a foundation basically of any kind of a home or a building. That's something we wanted to construct and scale. And test automation framework is that exact strength. The more solid your foundation would be, the more scalable outcome or output you are going to have in near future. And so if you wanted to summarize it, it's a basically a test automation framework. It's not one entity, but it's a basically a summarization of various things. Those can be your guidelines, those can be your coding standard concepts that you are basically applying, the process, practices, the project hierarchy, basically, the
Sorry
modularity.
for interrupting you, Prathamesh. I think your slides are not visible. See,
Okay, let me just go
yeah.
back. Let me give it another try. Is it now? Is it visible now, Vanshika?
Yes, it's visible now.
Okay, great.
We can see it. Uh,
So basically, I was talking about the test automation framework. It's basically a good blend of all those things, right? Reporting mechanism, test data injection, which overall helps us in automating the application under test. That is the standard terminology that typically we use. And if you just wanted to, visualize it, you obviously have your framework layer, which typically consists of your very standard driver scripts, your schedulers, your common set of libraries, your monitoring engines, your reporting libraries. That is something. So it's overall, if you look at broader level, your framework layer is built up of this. And then we are talking about the automated test suite side of it. So where you actually talking about your automation test scripts, then your input data, test data, basically what you call it as, then common business automation script, your object repositories, your global set of variables, your recovery scenarios, error handling mechanisms, and all you are building towards it is just to have your application under test automated, and also to have the ability to execute those automation scripts on the said application. So are we clear so far? I guess we now have a common set of understanding about what test automation framework is. Now, just briefly touched upon what the advantages of having a test automation framework in place. So reusability of code. So this is something a very powerful outcome of having a test automation framework in place, is that you are going to have optimized set of code there. And when we talk about this, then once you are going to have a reusability of code, then you are obviously going to have impact on your technical debt down the line. And also the entire your code base or repository is going to get optimized in nature, which is a very big advantage. So that means the maintainability will be on a higher side. The maximum coverage, that is something you are going to achieve with the help of test automation framework. Recovery scenarios, also in some of the cases that you can leverage the power of test automation framework and basically handling all your recovery scenarios in terms of anything fails in between. Low cost maintenance, so that is where if their code repository and the code is going to get optimized in nature, obviously you're going to spend less effort and eventually the cost under the maintenance of your automation code base. Minimal manual interventions, so that you do not have to go ahead and touch those things. Those will be very visibly structured and would be taken care of. And easy reporting, so that is where also when we are going to have a test automation framework in place, then obviously once you wanted to share the reports with a different set of stakeholders, the reporting becomes pretty easier. Now, what are all the traditional challenges? So, if I may ask the audience, if some of you have opportunity to implement any test automation framework or tool from the scratch, or you have been working in a place where you have something, been there from as a part of a legacy, can you guys share or chat what are the challenges you guys have faced in your experience so far? Okay, parallel execution. Anyone else wants to take a stab at it? Okay, frequency failure in scripts, identifying the right tool. Okay, that's what the session is about. Okay. Captcha, multi execution, cross domain. All right, fantastic. So, this basically then highlights the real time issues we have typically been facing as a part of our traditional challenges. Now, my take is that so as I told you, right, we are going to talk about the different sides of this entire process, popular versus required. So, again, the one question to you guys: what is the popular automation stack as of now today in market? And I know probably most of you might say, okay, it's probably Selenium plus Java, right? Now, here is always it's a very tricky question, right? Popular versus required. Sometime it happens, right? You join in a place, and they are using something very niche in nature, which is not Selenium and Java, but probably they are using something else. Probably they are using some very different language which is not so popular, and also the UI automation tool which is not you can say so much familiar to the community. Now it always boils down to typically what we should go for. Either we should go for a popular versus the required one, and that is where. So if I'm a quality engineer, or I'm a person who is actually doing automation as an individual contributor, sometimes people tend to have, or the influences whatever is the popular out there. uh, and that's because it's a fair, right? Because in the market also, if you see, then there is a lot of opportunities available on that particular tech stack. But if you are trying to make a decision for your automation tech stack, where you are actually wanted to finalize what is the best solution for you, then just going for the popular tool set might not be the right approach. But to consider the entire all the scenario, okay, what is your and that is something we're also going to touch upon. But what I'm just trying to say, we have to keep a very you can say deep understanding about what is a popular versus what is a required one for us. More often than not, people go for a popular options or something that is not required for them, and that also creates a challenge down the line. Lack of product roadmap visibility. uh, I'm not sure, but I have been in the scenarios, but also some of you can also share your own experiences, that if you do not have your product roadmap visibility, then it becomes a challenge. uh, Imagine a scenario, and again, it's all real time conditions, that you started working on some particular automation tool. You put your entire effort, got the foundation framework done, started automating scenarios, and down the line, say after 6 months or a year, you got to know, hey, what our entire UI technology is going to get changed. And then the tool and the framework what you have selected, it's not handy, it's not seamless to work with your new set of technical stack of your product. Then it becomes very challenging. Then you're talking about the entire new tool and framework to be relooked at, the entire migration efforts, if you wanted to go to, again, learning and development becomes a part of it. That is one of the very key aspect and element. Extensive training and development cost and efforts, that is something I touched upon, because with this, if people, we do not go give a lot of importance of this tool and framework selection process, and believe me, you would end up spending rounds and rounds of efforts, cost around the extensive training and development of each resources. Constant attrition, this also becomes a major challenge, and again, this would lead us to training and development. Now imagine you are actually zeroing it down on one particular tech stack, you are training and developing people. But if you are going to have higher set of iteration at your end, then you are not going to have a fruitful outcome, because then you will end up spending most of your time in training and developing this particular resource before you actually start expecting something out of the team. So this also becomes quite a dent in our automation efforts. Forced decision, I'm pretty much using this forced decision words, or something that you enter into a setup, and you basically work in a such kind of an environment where decisions has already been taken. So either those also can be a historical decisions in nature, and those might not be you can say best or correct set of decision, and that is where things can also can get dragged in having the overall impact onto the automation side. Decisions taken in silos. Why I am saying you this is that now when we talk about the quality engineering efforts, and we all value the collaborative effort, how we deal with, okay, we do deal with DevOps, we deal with engineering team, product team. But sometimes if the task comes to us, and since we are the expert of zeroing it down to the automation framework, and the tool that we're going to use, I think always I have also experienced this. The more collaboration or involvement you have from your other leaders, okay, involve people from product, involve people from engineering, from DevOps in your entire decision making process, because they are also your equal stakeholders, and you also have to work very collaboratively with this set of people around you. So if they are also able to bring some inputs to the table, I think this really adds the value in your entire decision making process, and really it makes you the failure proof in near future. Aiming for the glory shot. So this is something, being a cricket fan, this comes from that, okay, so even though you can get or achieve your target pretty easily or step by step, you tend to go for a glory shot, and in that particular manner you might lose your wicket. So automation basically can also come as with a lot of excessive baggage of expectations to the individual, to the team, quality engineering team, and sometimes it has been also been looked upon as solution for all the problems. That is something we should refrain from. And whenever you're actually planning down the entire automation journey of your organization or of your product, set yourself a very small milestones, target, achievable things over the course of have your entire short term vision and long term vision sorted out. I think that really helps instead of going, okay, sometimes it can start, hey, you know what, we just wanted to automate 100% or everything out there in the next quarter. That is something can also set up for failure, because then we are doing things hastily, which might not be good or right necessarily. Lack of best engineering practices. So even though we are basically doing these things from the testing point of view, but it's all about engineering. So I also consider this entire automation effort as a part of engineering, so that's where I emphasize on being a quality engineers. uh, so all the engineering practices, be it coding standard, being your linting, that is something like a code smell issues, keeping your repository optimized, minimizing your tech debt, all those practices has been championed onto the development side over the years. We can actually take the benefit of all those practices, and having all those state of art coding standard guidelines practices to be followed even onto the automation side, so that your code will be agile, nimble, it will be optimized, and it will be well maintained at the end of the day. But unfortunately, sometimes due to basically lack of visibility or not involving the engineering team, not taking the benefit of the framework in place, sometimes we end up in a situations that we end up creating lot of duplicate code, lot of code which is not scalable in nature, and lot of technical debt even onto the automation side as well. And then your maintenance becomes a nightmare. So at one point of time you are dealing with your script failures, but also you are dealing with the maintenance of your automation repositories. How many of you basically relates to these particular challenges or have come across it, which has been there traditionally? Okay, great. That's good to hear that these people have also came across a lot of such challenges, which is bound to happen. And this is also a different side to it, right? Once sometime we think individually, It's something pretty different. Then also there are the other facet to it as well. Now let's discuss about what can be the key points to consider while selecting your test automation framework. Encapsulation from complexity. So when we talk about, so not everybody, again, you have to understand that we are actually developing this test automation framework for all the quality engineers to use it in their day-to-day life. So, and we do not want them to deal with all those complexities. So encapsulation from the complexity is pretty important points. Scripts and data separation, that is very important nowadays. In traditionally also we are having this Excel sheets from where we are feeding the test data. Now the most faster way is also JSON. People are also having the JSON test data where it has been mentioned in the JSON format. Maximum reusability, that is where again I talked about, touch based upon, it should have maximum reusability in place so that your entire automation framework and repo becomes pretty light. Communication with additional automation tools. So think it as the entire ecosystem. It might also happen that you might also have to use some clustered approach while designing your automation solutions. So also the integration and the communication with the other peripheral tools becomes quite important. Ability to automate scenario which is based on the multiple logics, yes, that is also pretty important. And it might happen in very complex situations or scenarios or application where you might have to require such kind of ability. Data retrieval, it becomes very important as well. CI readiness, we talk about a lot of different application architecture. Also, let's talk about something like microservices based applications. Okay, there also will have a different repo onto the UI sites. You also have to make sure your basically tool and framework integrates with all those set of repos. Tools extensibility, it's also one of the very important factors. Logs, it helps you out. Some of the times you see the tools or the framework you end up using are not giving you those kind of a detailed log. That is where you actually have to work upon and make sure that whatever logs you are getting, those are detailed one, and it helps you out in terms of your debugging. Error handlers, it's also one of the important points. Then whatever errors or exceptions you are encountering all the way through, how it has been handled. Custom message for report. Yes, so reporting also becomes a, as I told you, it's a very you can say important aspect in making the automation efforts visible. Sometimes the reporting needs of your particular organization might be a bit different, but then that is where you actually wanted to customize your reporting as well, which should suit your reporting needs so that you get the maximum ROI of of your automation efforts. Rerun for failures, that is something again you want that to happen eventually. And parallel execution, that also we have seen in the comments that parallel execution becomes a very important attribute. Why I'm saying this now, imagine, okay, you are actually having your automation suits structured. Okay, your sanity suits, you have smoke suits, you have regression suits. Now we always talk about people are having the automation execution done into your CI/CD pipeline on every push or or every batch commits or on regular intervals. Then I probably say you have a 50 smoke suits or smoke test cases that is there, and you actually wanted to get it executed within a short span of time. So if you wanted to execute them sequentially, it might based on the average time, it might take between 30 minutes to an hour. But if your automation suite becomes a part of your deployment pipeline, then you probably would want this entire execution to get executed within say 3 minutes to 5 minutes. That is where the parallel execution comes very handy. Result presentation, again, it's a subset of your reporting mechanism, and that is very important point to be considered. Now let's talk about the misconception about test automation. And I'm sure this is something is also has to do with the entire education, educating the other parties of it as well. Because when we talk about test automation, you are probably working in a place or in an environment where you probably have to also pass on a lot of information to the other stakeholders, that what exactly we are doing as a part of test automation. And as I told you, because it can be seen as a one-stop solution for all the problems, but it is not, right? And that is where it becomes very important. also to the spread across this entire transparency, what test automation brings to the table, and what are the limitations of it as well, and what it does not do basically. One misconception that is out there, that you should automate 100% of your test. I think it sounds very tempting, and I'm sure you must have come across this particular sentence or expectations from within your team, from other different stakeholders, and there is nothing wrong with it. But you also have to keep an eye whether your application really requires those set of things. Is it really stable in nature? What is the percentage amount of code changes are happening on your repo? If you're talking about different classes of your application, how many times those are getting touched upon? But if things are in a very rapid development in nature, they are under a lot of maintenance, or things are changing very rapidly, so basically even though automating them 100% will not give you a value, because things would be ultimately under maintenance, things will be failing constantly. So that would not be a right approach. So all your automation should be based on return on investment. So I'll give you my theory how basically I approach to the things. So whenever you talk about any application out there, you can either get your top priority scenarios or the flows, or you can also have a lot of things. So we have application monitoring tools, something like app dynamics, you have new relic logic monitor. You take help from those particular tool and try to learn what are the maximum traverse flows or used parts of your particular application, and then you should try to automate those first entirely. That will give you the 100% of ROI, what efforts you are going to put. So just running behind automating everything, I think you should approach on the flows which has been maximally used and critical for you, your customers, and your application. I think that will give you the more value out of it. Automation replaces manual testing. I think we have been hearing it from a while. Even when I started my career about 18 years ago, I was hearing these things, but nothing of that sorts happened, and it will not happen. See, coming up with the test scenarios, test cases, it's an art. It's a basically a matter of your how you're critically you are thinking, how you're judging the application, how you're applying your domain knowledge. And automation is just you are going to script and code those things the way you actually want it. Sometimes you can have a state of the art automation engineers, and you are having everything automated 100%, but still you are leaking defects to the customer end, because it is not covering the edge cases, it is not covering those business like scenarios. Then it will not be useful or helpful for you. So ultimately, having this conception, okay, automation is going to replace and everything on the manual testing side, it's a misconception basically. Developers should lead automated testing efforts. In some cases, yes, you can obviously take a help from the development team members. So sometimes, imagine you are working on a one particular application which is built in Java, and your developers are working, with Java in day in day out, and on your automation side as well, you are using Selenium with Java. Then definitely, I think you should go ahead and take the help from your development team members if you are facing any issues and challenges. But I think it should be owned by the quality engineers, and it's also an opportunity to learn all those engineering practices and implement it into the test automation. Automation testing is more expensive than manual testing. It's not in the long term, yes, but it's an investment that you should also give a thought about. So it might take a while to automate your different suits that you are targeting, but once you reach there, you can execute those suits basically at any point of time on any environment. So that is the ability and flexibility it's going to give you. On the face value, people might say, okay, automation is more expensive, but it is not. Automated testing is superior to manual testing, no, because you are actually feeding things to it. It's not other way around, right? So I always, based on the critical thinking and the ability of a QA members basically. And then once you actually go into this quality engineering hat, then you should actually write the script which will have more meaningful value and ability to find the issues, probable issues. Automated testing is a makeshift solution. No, it is not, because it's definitely going to give you the value and ability to squeeze your time to release to the market. That is where it becomes very important. automation will solve all the testing problem. No, it's not. Again, it's a very misconception. As I'm saying, testing is the entire wholesome process and umbrella. Automation basically it's one part of it. You will still gonna have to put a lot of efforts about how you write the test cases, how you do your requirement analysis, how you have the entire business flows covered as a part of your test cases, and eventually the automation test scripts. Test script created once can run for all the version of the builds. It not necessarily again would be true, because we all know once we try to shift it across different versions, it might require some kind of a tweaking, some kind of a parameters we need to feed them on the run. So it not necessarily is true all the time. Test automation is a silver bullet. So as keep on saying that it's not the solution for all your problems. If suppose if you are not developing quality code from the engineering side, test automation is not going to save you. You will have to work on the basics, right? Have those foundation in place, and then you can later leave it to test automation to do those validation for you. Any misconception you guys have faced in your day-to-day activity about automation, something you would like to share? Okay, fine, we'll move on. Now, the questions you should have answers for before finalizing your test automation tech stack. Okay, and then this is again, I think I have learned it from my experience, and that is something has been pretty relevant. That what type of product it is. When I say type of product, sometimes it can be very complex in nature. It can be very straightforward product. It can be a SaaS product, which most of it those like software as a services, whether it is a PaaS product, whether it's a platform as a services. That also you should consider before finalizing your automation tech stack. What is my product tech stack? So now if it's again now becomes a more collaborative point, you should actually have conversation to the engineering architects. You can have conversation from those decision makers. You should have a clear cut tech stack roadmap for your product that you are going to automate, so that you can complement it with basically the tool that is you are going to select. Now for an example, traditionally we have seen a lot of applications those were built in Java and .NET, but now we have Angular, React JS onto the UI side, which are pretty popular UI technologies nowadays. And if you ask like any JS based UI, you are having a very popular options available in the market. Be it Playwright, be it Cypress. Those goes very well with any JS based UI application. So you should also ask, okay, what is going to be my product tech stack for the next 5 years, 2 years down the line, so that you can choose your automation tech stack now. So down the line, if that change is going to happen, you still should be good. You will not have to change your automation tool, neither the scripting technology. That is something you should be pretty sure of. What is my products technology roadmap? That is again the basically subset of it, and you should have pretty solid answer for it. Will I need API automation? So why I'm talking about this specific point is that your entire automation tech stack I've talked about is that you should have solution, one-stop solution for all your automation needs. So you should also go back and check, okay, will I need API automation? So whatever tech stack I'm evaluating, the framework I'm talking about, will it also suffice my UI automation need? Will it also suffice my API automation needs? Is my product responsive in nature, or does it have a native mobile apps? So now your product might be responsive in nature as of now, but down the line, say after a year, your product team thinks, okay, now we are going to also have a dedicated native mobile apps. So you should also think about, hey, you know what, whether my existing tech stack what I have selected, does it also supports my native mobile apps across iOS or Android? Can I integrate with some kind of a test runner on clouds? I think that will also give you visibility and also will impact on your decision. What is the skill level of our quality engineering organization? I think it's also takes it back to the training and development efforts. Now imagine you're talking about a text. Let's take an example. Okay, if suppose you have thought, okay, playwright with TypeScript would be a very suitable option for your organization's automation need. Then traditionally we see, okay, a lot of QA members come from a background of having a Java. Then how easily they can learn TypeScript, or for that matter any other language, say a JavaScript or something else, Python. So that is something, the skill level you also have to gauge, because as I told you, the training and development efforts are a pretty huge cost, and pretty huge extensive efforts that you have to actually invest within the quality engineering organization. What are my training and development efforts? That's again will be a result of the entire this activity. How seamless CI/CD part will be. So we have now dealing with a lot of microservices based application. Some of them are again monolithic application in nature. So how seamless? So when we actually want to unearth the actual benefit of our test automation, is that how we can actually integrate into part of our continuous integration and continuous deployment process. That is where the entire crux of it. You can have again your state of the art automation, you are having a lot of coverage, but if you're not leveraging that your coverage to keep an checks or having those quality gates in place into your entire CI/CD process, then it is not giving you that much of value. So that is where also you should pretty much evaluate how seamless it integrates with different tools. Does it suffice for all my reporting needs? So we have a lot of popular options. We have reportportal.io, Allure is there, but sometimes again you have to see when we talk about, and again this is the one challenge, when we actually wanted to reflect the quality of a product or a project, it basically sits, okay, your manual testing efforts are basically coming out of a Jira, some other tool, ALM, Zephyr, and your automation tool basically, which are mostly open source in nature, you are getting some of the reports in some other site in Allure, or some in other way. Now you also have to think, okay, how I can actually reflect the quality, how I can actually reflect the entire piece together, whether it how I can get the confidence. Sometimes it happens, and it's really important, is that nowadays people are working around the clock, right? We're having a Teams, we're having a Slack. uh, Gone are the days probably even people were using, okay, send out an email with the automation results. But how I can actually notify the teams onto the Teams channel, onto the Slack channel? Can I have my central portal developed where people can just hit and see the entire automation results over there? I think that is also where it will give you that required visibility. Your efforts basically are going to get appreciated, and people will also get to know, okay, these things are happening on the test automation side, and even the product people, the development people can take a help of the test automation to see what is the quality of code they are developing. So your reporting needs also becomes a pretty important, and you also have to see how flexible it is if you wanted to tweak or customize your reporting part of it. Does it natively communicate with all communication tool, Slack or Teams? That is exactly I talked about, that you should also have the ability to notify and generate the action items or the failures to the respective group, so that people can just take a necessary action on it. Do we have a good community support? Sometimes when we talk about popular options like Selenium, yes, it definitely has a huge community, and that also helps. If somebody is encountering some issues, you get a lot of help from the community. But sometimes you also tend to go for a tool, or maybe you have selected such a tool that it does not have the community support that good. Then it might be a struggle or a challenge, because if you hit some kind of a roadblock on the way through, then sometimes it leaves you on your own, and you actually have to retrofit or try to go ahead and look out for the other solutions or work around. So I think community support also is one of the parameter or question you should have answered for. Does it get frequent releases and version upgrades? Yes, we all have been through path that even we have seen how Selenium has progressed, or even say a new tool like Playwright or even Cypress. When they started, they had a different set of limitations with them. But if they are really releasing and fixing those things rapidly in nature, I think then all your issues and problems what you are encountering as of today will be taken care of. But unfortunately, you have ended up selecting a tool which is not having your frequent releases or version upgrades, then probably you are going to have your issues stuck around for a while. whether it all required OS browsers, is it getting supported. So now as we talked about ability of our test automation of having this execution across multiple environments, multiple platforms, that is where also you should have this particular point covered, whether it has ability to support all the OS, which can be your Windows, iOS, all the browsers, whether it can be a Safari, Edge, your Chrome. Does it have that ability to support all these? Will this tool be supported for long term, or is going to sunset soon? Just some time back, there was one of the popular cloud automation tool that was open for all, but the parent organization might take a stance, or company might take a stance. Hey, you know what, it's there, but we are going to sunset its support soon, or we are not going to support this particular tool. Then it also kind of leave you in a midway. Then that can become a challenge for you, and then you also might have to look out for a newer options. Eh, So, any of such issues, things that you guys have encountered, probably you can also mention it in the chat. But I think if you have a solid answers to this particular set of questions, I think it will be very helpful for you guys. So, various features that one can consider, for selecting a tool. So yeah, most of them obviously has been provided by most of the available tool there, but it's always good process to make sure all these features are available. And some of the importance are screenshot, whether it's ability to take the screenshot, parallel testing, that is something it's there, easy debugging side, mobile testing, CI compatibility, that's something we have tested. Then it supports whether it's a shadow DOM, can I do the time traveling, what is the waiting mechanism it has, visual testing, that is something also very upcoming thing, does it have the ability to do that. You can also go through the other parameters which are there on your screen. Is there any kind of special scenarios or features that this particular thing has? What all the different types of design pattern it supports? We have page object model, we have a singleton, we have facade, whether it gets supported by your respective tool or not. So all these factors you can consider. One thing that basically I do the exercise whenever I basically start doing any kind of evaluation. Again, this is something I picked up from internet source, and this is something was very useful for me as well, that you can have entire your list of feature that you want, you can jot down, and you can have all the tools evaluated, again all those set of features. And once you try to do this activity and exercise, and again this might have changed, and you can also have the updated set of list, or you can go ahead with that, because since we have a lot of updated releases from Cypress and Playwright recently as well. But I think this will give you very clear visibility. Okay, sometimes data speaks for itself. Now once you have this clear metrics in front of you, I think you can go ahead and make that decision very easier. Also, if suppose you get cross questioned by your engineering counterparts, or by somebody from the stakeholders, why only we are going for this particular tool, whereas popular option is Selenium or something else, then you have this entire study done by your end, that why we have reached to this decision, why it is in the best interest of our product, why it is in the best interest of our organization. That is something you can justify with the help of this particular decision matrix. I think that it has been useful to me in the past, and I think it is also will be useful for you guys. And with this, also some of those popular options are there, right? There is a Test Cafe, WebDriver IO, Cypress is there, Codecept Chairs is there, Playwright. So all these, all the popular tools are there. Some of them like Catalan and Test Complete might be paid in nature, but most of them are open source. So I think all this community we are heading towards the right direction. But if you give an importance of each and every aspect what we talked about, we touch base on, I think you will not go wrong. But I have also seen, as I said, if you go wrong in some of your journey, then your entire efforts becomes a pain point. Then we are talking about a lot of maintenance, rework of your decision, scrapping your entire efforts. It becomes a bit challenging. So I hope once you follow this particular thing or a method, or try to get the answers to these particular questions, I think more often than not, you will be heading towards the right direction. I think with this, we are towards the end of this particular session. I hope I was able to make my point, but I'm basically open for questions. Vanshika, over to you as well.
Yeah, Prathamesh. So we have few questions that we can take up in the next 5 minutes. So the first question we have is, can you please share me a suggestion when I wish to transform from functional testing to automation, which is the best tool to learn at the initial stage?
Thanks. I think this is a it's a representation. This question is a pretty representation of big community and members who actually wanted to shift their journey from a QA to QE. I would put it in that way. So obviously, I mean, that what all the tools are there. So if we talk about Selenium, we talk about Playwright, we talk about Cypress, and if you also look at in the market, there are a lot of UIs which are now JS based. So I think you should always champion Selenium. You should go for it as a Selenium, and you should also have one additional skill set or a tool in your kitty, which either can be your Cypress or a Playwright, which is pretty also another popular option. So you can target couple of this tool to have in your kitty. Uh, Sometimes when people are actually thinking about the automation, they get pretty much tied up or attached to a tool and a language. Automation is not about that. Automation can be done with the help of any tool or a language. I think that is the baseline you should get. But as I told you, right, I in fact expect people from manual testing or a functional background to be a very fantastic automation engineers, because they have a domain knowledge, they have an eye to catch the defect. And also now once they add this particular technical side, in terms of language or basically a tool in their kitty, I think they are will be a fantastic asset for any kind of organization. So please keep learning any kind of a language what you are comfortable with, and any kind of a tool which you feel. So I have recommended either you can go for a Selenium, or and then one you should go for a Cypress or Playwright.
Got it. So we have another question from Ranjan Pratap Singh. He's asking, what is your thought on low code, no code tools and automation?
Absolutely. Now you must have seen there are a lot of organizations, or you can say a lot of automation companies. Those are coming in picture, and they are basically building things, or those are essentially the wrapper on top of on the Selenium and the other tools as well. Now the challenge, and again it would be definitely useful for applications which is not so complex at this point of time, and it can take care of it. But you should be doing a proof of concept with this particular low code and no code tool. We also see some of the cases it might not be as lucrative as it might seem on the face value. Hey, you know what, I'm not going to need a tool or maybe a script at all. Any tester can just use it and automate stuff. But whether you are able to really going to parameterize those particular script, whether it is going to handle your critical scenarios or not, whether it's going to cater to all your automation needs or not, if it is, then yeah, you can go for it. And again, you also have to understand these again tools are probably paid in nature. You have to go and you have to bear some cost for it as well. But if those are not going to handle your complex scenarios and you still have to end up and rework on your automation script, then it is not giving you that value. So I think you should always go for a POC and just try to see whether it ticks all the boxes for your automation needs or not.
Got it. Understood. We have another question from Akshay Gadkari. How to evaluate which language to choose, example Java or Python, based on which parameters?
So there are again two sides to this question. That is where I talked in today's session, that there can be an individual side to it. So now if you look at even like, okay, even though you look at the market requirement, probably 50-60% requirement would be on the engineers, quality engineers who are well versed with Java. Okay, because most of the industry solution people are using Selenium plus Java as their automation tech stack. uh, but as I told you, right, you if you wanted to become a champion into the automation site, you can obviously choose one particular language to start with, but please do not stick around with it, right? Because tomorrow if you are championing Selenium with Java, but if you switch or move to the another organization, their need might be different. So I would again recommend, please do not get tied up or too much emotionally attached to one language or a tool, but always have more than one language in your kitty. And I think Java and Python also, Python is also very popular because people is finding it pretty easy to learn and start with. So go ahead and start with this particular language, but also try to jump onto some other languages required, because in future you never know, you might work at a place where there are some different solutions available.
Understood. Got it. So, last two questions for you, Prathamesh. We have the other session starting soon. So, the first question is how, by Simpi Kumari, the question is how to choose right API automation testing framework using JavaScript.
Yeah. So nowadays, okay, most of these applications are pretty heavy onto the API. They're having the backend and services to be automated, and specifically, it becomes very important if your product is in PaaS in nature. If it's we are providing platform as a services. So here there are some popular options, right? You have Rest Assured, then there is a Karate framework. So again, what I'm saying is that you look at the kind of APIs you guys are basically using. What is the different parameters that you guys actually wanted to cover? As I said, more often than not, you choose the tool based on your needs. All those upcoming tools will keep on giving you the support and fixing those things for you. But you also go for your own comfort level. If suppose there are other tool, okay, you do not have the expertise of JavaScript, but you suppose have expertise with Java, go for a tool where you can actually use that particular tool, learn in a faster way, and implement it as well. So obviously go for this, and do not again hard attach to one particular language or a tool, but go for the API automation framework, which will first of all fulfill your need and will be very easy to learn and can be adopted quickly by your quality engineering teams.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Prathamesh. One last question we have from Karthik Raja. He's asking, do automation testers learn DevOps and jump to DevOps, or learn DevOps and enhance their skills as QA?
Thanks, Karthik. And I think this again a very important question. I have myself have seen development people coming to quality engineering. I have seen quality engineers move to a DevOps role. um, but if we talk about this entire, we talked about, okay, how this automation journey start and it actually ends, with our integration with CI/CD, the execution part of it. But it is a very important and key attribute nowadays to also to have some sort of DevOps skill. A lot of organizations are using AWS, and you should have all the basic understanding on that side as well. Okay, how you're spinning up the instances, how you're actually executing your script, uh, for that matter Docker, if you wanted to parallelize you actually parallel execution, how you can go ahead and use those particular fundamentals which can give boost to your automation side and execution. I think that becomes very important for any individual. Also, if you really wanted to have the integration done, probably Jenkins was there, right? People also have to go ahead and learn Jenkins. GitHub Actions nowadays, it also provides very powerful tool where you can actually spin up the machines, execution is done, and you can actually maintain the entire steps what can be done as a part of executions as well. So it's going to be always a key differentiator for engineers who has exposure and understanding of your automation from the DevOps side, because automation is one thing what you are doing, but I also consider is from an automation infrastructure point of view. That also becomes a very key point, which is very near to DevOps. So yes, absolutely, it's a very vital skill to have in a kitty for any quality engineers who want to succeed.
Got it. Understood. So I think that ends this session. Questions left, but that we can answer on our Discord channel, or I am dropping
Absolutely.
Prathamesh's LinkedIn account. You can also connect with him if you have any doubts.
So yeah, thanks, Vanshika. Just wanted to take the opportunity for this fantastic, set of audience and the questions those come in. And again, wanted to thank the Test Tribe, community and the platform again. Please do stay in touch over the LinkedIn, and please send across your questions if any. I will be happy to help to the community and also learn from you guys. Thanks a lot.
Sure, Prathamesh. Thank you so much for doing this session.